I wish you luck in realizing your ambition.
Hey everyone, it's BlueLizardJello and welcome back to Everything Possible in Elden Ring. Last time we took a look at the coastal cave, we made our way to the Church of Dragon Communion, we also did the first catacomb, the Stormfoot Catacombs, took out a couple of bosses, and here we are at Lake Agil North. But before we move on in today's episode, let's go ahead and look at my stats. Nothing has changed in between episodes, still level 14 if you want to take a look at the stats, which we will be upgrading in this episode. You can go ahead and pause the video now. As far as our loadout today goes, and this is going to be changing a little bit, or at least some of the Ashes of War will be changing. We have the club, the Lord Sorin's greatsword. We have a short bow just in case we need to do any enemy pulling, and we'll be using this a little bit later on as well. We also have the Vagabond Knight armor set, which we did alter last time, which did reduce the weight and of course some of the damage negation, but I'll show why we actually reduced that weight here in a moment. We also have the Vagabond Knight gauntlets and the Knight greaves, nothing on our helm, no talismans, and then so far we just have our flask of Crimson Tears on our hotbar. Now, the reason we actually reduced the weight of the Vagabond Knight armor is so we could use a talisman. Is this going to do any good right now? Not really, because we only have the one, the Flame Drake talisman. However, it's better than nothing, at least in most cases. There are a few enemies we may run into that can cause some fire damage, and this will just help to reduce some of that, because as you can see over on the far right hand side, the fire damage negation goes up to 28.632, so a nice little reduction there. Without that, however, we would actually be in heavy load, and by without that I mean altering the Vagabond Knight armor. We did reduce it enough so that wearing the talisman does not put us into heavy load, so our roll speed hasn't been impacted. Today, I've actually changed this route multiple times. I'm pretty happy with what we're doing right now. So as I said, we are currently at Agil Lake North. We have this mine right here, the Limgrave tunnels. We're going to be going in there soon, just not yet. We also have the telescope that I've neglected to show off several times. I'll be taking a look at it, but I'll really be showing this off in a future episode just so you can see some of the cool things you can actually witness with the telescope. But we're going to be starting up here, even though we're soon going to be traveling away, because I'm going to hop on Torrent. We do have the Caden Knight that's over here to our east, kind of east northeast, and we are going to be heading over here. So first we'll take a look at the telescope. So walking up to the back of the telescope, we can use the bird's eye telescope, and we do get exactly that, a bird's eye view of Limgrave and of Agil Lake. You can look around just using the right analog stick. If you want to zoom in, similar to your telescope or your bow, you can use up and down respectively on your directional pad. And if enemies are close enough, you can actually see them actually milling about and going about their business, which is going to be really cool a little bit later on. You can see there's the Caden Knight on his patrol, and where we're going to be heading is right there. You can actually see a scarab right in the center of the screen there. That is going to give us a new skill, a new Ash of War. However, we do have a small encampment here with 3 enemies, and we have a Caden warrior who is patrolling across that bridge. So our first step is going to be making our way up this path, getting that scarab, killing the Caden warrior, grabbing an item that's on a body on the ledge right there, and then we'll be looping to our next location. So right here, I'm going to two-hand my Lord Sorin's greatsword, and I want to get the drop on the torch enemy if I can. It looks like that's not going to be possible. And the reason is, once you go up to try and kill him, I'm just going to do a sprinting R1. Yeah, chances are he's going to just stick the torch out, and he's going to get that hit off. But I took a little bit less damage than I normally would have because we have on the Flame Drake talisman. Scarab shouldn't see us just yet, so I'm going to get a backstab on this Godric soldier right here. And then I'm just going to quickly back up because these guys are just quite aggressive. Little stamp uppercut just for fun. And to shake up the combat even further, there's jumping R2. And what do we get? Hey, foot soldier cap. I don't want to engage the Caden warrior just yet, so I'm going to crouch him back up until he turns around. And then we're going to go after the scarab. There we have it, so let's make sure we just get a target. We'll rush in there and just start R1ing. There we have it. And we get the Ash of War Determination, a really useful early Ash of War. This skill only costs 10 FP, it lasts for 10 seconds, it works on all melee armaments, all melee weapons, and it increases the damage of your next attack by 60%. Notice I said it lasts for 10 seconds, but it only works on your next successful attack. If you don't attack or don't strike anything within 10 seconds, it will go away and you'll have to reapply it. Or if you attack something right away, that first hit that actually connects with an enemy, the damage will be increased by 60%, and then you'll have to reapply it to use it again. Or if you do a critical, it boosts that damage by 20%. Really, really useful. We will certainly be using this. Now, I'm going to show off my strategy for dealing with the mounted Caden warriors again. One small hit there. I'm targeting the mount, not the warrior itself. Bait that long attack is really nice, and then we just loop back around. Okay, there we go. Wait till he slashes. One hit. And I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to dismount. Okay, bait that attack. Perfect. One hit. Dismount. And then I'm just going to do a sprinting R1 to take out the horse, run up to the warrior, and get that critical. Excellent. Ooh, we got a drop. And what did we get? We got the Caden helm. Very nice. Very cool helm. Unfortunately, not the dismounter weapon, which I would have preferred. So we're not going to actually cross the bridge. Instead, let's just go over here. Let's grab this smithing stone level 1 off of the corpse. And that is it for this area for now. Our next step is actually going to be to get yet another Ash of War. And to do that, we're going to start by traveling to the first step where White Mask Vari is waiting for us. Vari doesn't have anything new to tell us about, so what we're going to do is we're going to head around to the back of this building here where we first came out of the tutorial, and we're aiming for this pillar. Grab any crafting items you may find along the way. And then right down here, you can see there's a little platform, and if you pan around, you also can see just the edges of a shiny. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to craft a few of these rainbow stones, and we're going to use these to determine if the fall is survivable. So we put that on our hotbar, and when you drop these, if it lands somewhere where you can survive, it will just land and nothing will happen. If we drop it where we cannot survive, it will shatter and you will hear that loud noise indicating that that is definitely going to kill you. This does not mean, however, that you won't take any fall damage. There are ways to completely negate that damage later on, but for now, all we know is that we will survive the fall, provided we have enough HP. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hug this corner and gently walk towards that stone I dropped. And over here we get 2 silver pickled fowl foot. Now I know that I have mixed these up already in episodes past, but this will allow you to get increased item discovery by 50 for 3 minutes. The gold pickled fowl foot, which we have collected before, will increase your rune acquisition for 3 minutes. Over here we can just drop down. I know that this is safe. We do have one more rainbow stone we'll be using later on. We have some crucifixes here. We do have some bats. I'm probably going to leave those bats alone because we have some others to deal with. But walking through this row of crucifixes, there's a mushroom here, but over on this corpse, we get another smithing stone level 1. Do not fall for online messages indicating that this is something you should try jumping down into. I did, and I died. As will you if you try it, so please heed my warning. As you take a look around here, you're going to see a number of bats, and one of the things that I absolutely love about this game is that you can actually see some of them perched in these archways and in these columns, and I just think that's just such a cool attention to detail. If we were to approach, he'll come down and he'll swoop down and attack us. We have really no need to do that because we have some others to deal with. In the meantime, notice that we have a symbol over on the left indicating that we can summon. We could use our spirit wolf summons if we wish. There are some very good reasons for that, but unfortunately that's not going to be right now, probably not even in this episode. I do want you to take note, however, of this rather conspicuous clumping of grave markers. We'll be returning here once we get a particular clue, I'll say, as to why to return here later on. We have this tortoise here, we have this large lake, this is a Geel Lake, we have these ruins. Nothing that we're going to be tackling just yet. Instead, let's head up these rocks And over where all of those bats are congregated, we do have a shiny, so let's go deal with them. The Lordsworn's Greatsword with the Stamp Uppercut does a really good job at actually catching the bats because it does do that big overhead swing. Otherwise, go in there, do jumping R2s, or even just your sprinting R2s can catch them if they're low enough. So, we have this one here. Okay, there's one down. And those 3 up there that are surrounding the corpse we want, we should be able to kill them before they even get up. If we just run up there. And there we have it, all 3 dead, perfect. And we get a golden rune at level 1. Now that archway just there, likely not going to make it in this episode. Let me just deal with this one straggler bat. But in there is a very useful story-based NPC named Yuria. And above it, there is an item, well, it's a slumbering egg. Not something that we necessarily need to get, but I will be showing that off. But chances are that is going to be in the next part. What we're going to do instead is we're going to head behind this section right here. Oh, there was some sort of crafting item that I missed. There should be a mushroom back here. Oh, my apologies, it's herba. Inside there is a mushroom and a smoldering butterfly, which is really helpful. But here we have our next site of grace. In this site of grace, we're going to rest up, and I'm actually going to change the Ash of War on our Lordsworn's Greatsword. So Ash of War, Lordsworn's Greatsword, I'm going to change it from the Stomp, and I'm going to put on Determination, the skill that we just got. I'm still going to leave it as standard because, again, we don't have enough strength and dexterity in order to benefit from that quality affinity just yet. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to hop down here. You can see we have this alpha wolf. The reason we're going to hop down is because there is a single Trina's Lily that we're trying to get, and that enemy right there, if I can catch him before he disappears, he just disappeared. That is a Lesser Alabaster Lord. We are going to be killing him, and that's going to give us our next Ash of War, which is going to prove useful very, very quickly. If you don't want to risk this fall, because it can be a little tricky, there is the Spirit Spring just over here, and I'll show that off. In fact, we do have a glowing skull over here. We do have some small octopus, but we don't necessarily need that. But if you go to this rocky outcropping by these pillars, don't mind anything over there just yet, you have this Spirit Spring. If I jump into it, you can see as soon as I'm surrounded by that mist, by that fog, I can fall safely. But I'm actually going to go back up there because I want to show this alternate route. Sends you way, way above. Let's ride over to the Site of Grace again. Now this fall is a lot easier actually on Torrent. Might as well grab some flight pinions, but it is doable without him as well. So right over here, we want to get just in the corner. It can be a little bit tricky to get right. It's going to be a lot more tricky if... Let's reset that encounter, shall we? Here's a little bit of behind the scenes information for you. Normally, when I record Everything Possible series, I do it on the PC, and currently I'm recording on my PS5, which is a lot more difficult, not impossible, but a lot more difficult to create save backups. Meaning, if I make a silly mistake, like what just happened there, I can't just go and fix it as if nothing ever happened. So you're gonna see a few more of these mistakes because it's harder to cut out. Anyway, right in this corner, I'm gonna drop my rainbow stone here. And unfortunately that still broke. Let's craft a few more and see if we can find this perfect spot. Because I know I have to hit a certain rock. Maybe it's right in here. It's not there. Okay, maybe it's a little bit closer. There. Well, if I hit that, I'm gonna be okay. But the other way to do it is to simply, because you can see there's rocks under here, and I'll actually show this off because I'm not finding the sweet spot. What I'm gonna do is, first off, let me just mention this. Torrent has the same ability to land without dying as the player character does. So if it's a fatal fall for you, it's a fatal fall for Torrent. One thing that Torrent has that we don't is the double jump ability. The double jump does not prevent fall damage or save you from a fatal fall. Let me get rid of this bat here. But what you can do is potentially use Torrent's double jump to get to somewhere safe on your way down. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drop down here and then jump over closer to the wall here where there's a rocky outcropping. So I fall and I just land safely. There is a spot to get it without it. However, I'm not finding it and I don't want to risk yet another embarrassing fall. So we have the Alpha Wolf here. I'm going to use my determination. I'm going to go up here and just do a nice charge R2. Followed up with another R2. He's dead, and we get the Trina's Lily. That's really the only reason to come up here. There's no other reason you need to. There's no other items. However, I do like to collect every Trina's Lily that I can. So once again, there is the Spirit Spring. We are making our way down. If you're worried about the falls here, you absolutely can craft more rainbow stones. Fortunately, it only takes a single ruin fragment in order to make these, but over here it's a relatively safe fall. There we have it. And once again, look down here for some rocks. See which ones look a little bit safer. And again, when in doubt, just throw a rainbow stone just to make sure you will survive the fall. There we have it. Again, doesn't mean you're not going to take any fall damage. Fortunately, we did not. So let's look for that Lesser Alabaster. He just patrols right in this little rocky archway. You can see the fire from underneath. What I want to do is I want to use my determination, get behind him and get a nice big charge R2, and then from there we should be able to stun lock him. But I don't want to sprint down, because if you sprint and then do an R2, even if you try to charge it, it doesn't quite work the way you want. So instead, wait till he gets past just a little bit. Sneak around. Okay, determination. I am going to sprint while I actually do this, and then I'm going to stop, charge R2. Jump R2 for the knockdown. Critical. We almost have him. And then as he stands up, just another charge R2. And that is the Lesser Alabaster dealt with very, very easily. If you don't take him out that way and you actually fight him kind of hand to hand, he's not too terribly difficult. But he does have some things that can really be a bit detrimental to your health. Namely, he uses gravity magic, which is where we get the Gravitas Ash of War skill. He can pull you in, he can even shoot gravity orbs at you, gravity wells at you to pull you in, and then he does have that pretty large weapon that can actually hurt quite a bit at this stage of the game. But we got the Gravitas Ash of War from the Lesser Alabaster Lord, and this, not only do we get the really cool Gravitas skill, which I'll show off, which actually pulls enemies in and stuns them, but it allows us to use the magic affinity on the melee weapons that this can be used on. It can be used on all melee weapons except small weapons such as daggers and whips, but everything else is fair game. But now we can actually change the magic into magic damage, or at least we can split that difference. And we do have some enemies early on that are weak to magic damage, so we are going to be using that. Grab ourselves a Smoldering Butterfly. I'm going to hop on Torrent really quickly. And then over here we do have a large crab. We're going to deal with the crab. The crabs are similar to Dark Souls 3 crabs, but they definitely seem to have a little bit more poise. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm actually going to switch over to the club, and I am going to use Barbaric Roar just for a little bit increased damage. I'm going to get hit once, make sure that he thinks that he's in control here. I'm going to do some jumping R2 attacks whenever I can. This is a really good move whenever he does that spit. Should be able to get one, if not two. And unfortunately, the Barbaric Roar actually just hurt me there. When he does that frothing at the mouth and then he brings his right claw back, just make sure you dodge towards him. With him down, we're going to be killing a lot of these coming up. We'll get crab eggs, typically from the large crabs, which can be used for invigorating cured and white cured meat. And then over here, we get a lump of flesh. Lumps of flesh are typically from large carnivorous animals like the bears or the rune bears, some of the wolves. This is what we need in order to create the exalted flesh whenever we eventually get that recipe. Back on Torrent, back under this archway. Oh, got a nice glowing skull here. Never say no to those. And we're heading up towards that hole in the wall because we're finally going back to where it all began, to a shiny we couldn't reach quite a bit ago. Apologize if this is a little bit dark. But we get the Limgrave Talisman, and you notice we're back in the Cave of Knowledge, or just above the Cave of Knowledge. The Limgrave Talisman, very, very similar to the Flamedrake Talisman. Instead of fire damage negation, though, this is holy damage negation. Nothing that we're going to deal with early on is going to have holy damage, or at least nothing just yet. So, no real need to benefit from that just yet. Right, with the 2 Ashes of War in our possession, let's head back to Aegea Lake North. So here at Aegea Lake North, we are going to hop on Torrent. We're going to be heading over to these rocks here, these cliffs, where we have these eagles. And I could kill them for their pinions, I'm not too worried about it. But instead, we are going to be taking the path down to the water. Here's a word of caution. These lunatics that are over there worshiping around that bonfire, if you get close enough, you can actually hear what they're chanting. We'll hear that as well when we get to the Bird Dragon Ruins. If you approach this grouping, however, there's a rather large enemy encounter that we're not quite ready for. So we're not going to go there just yet. So we're going to be sticking pretty close to these cliffs. There's another golden rune. Got some great dragonflies here, aka Dobson flies. Here's a summoning pool if you want to be able to send your summon sign to this area. And we're just going to be sticking close to the cliffs here. We do have some land squirts. We also have a couple more crabs to deal with. But as long as we don't get onto that land, we should be fine from the large encounter. We'll be seeing that hopefully next time. But before we go this way, first off, let's go ahead and kill a land squirt. There is the possibility, as I mentioned before, getting golden rune level 3s, which are 800 runes, which is really nice. Should have actually switched to the Lord Sword's Greatsword for the critical there. Are you going to be a problem? You know, I should have actually remembered to switch over to the Gravitas, which works really well against those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock you over. There we go. Switch to the Lord Swords. Two-handed. Now, one note about two-handing for criticals. I'm doing it not for increased damage, but simply because I don't have the strength requirement to one hand. There we go. The Lord Swords Greatsword. That's the only reason I two-handed. Criticals, unlike previous games, do not get increased by two-handing your weapon unless you just don't meet the stats to begin with. All right, back to my club. Let's deal with this crab here. Dodge that first attack, jump attack. Watch the spit. Jump attack. Jump attack. Ah. I was hoping for a knockdown. You can break their stance. Usually charge R2s work a little bit better. There we have crab eggs, but under this archway we have 3 Trina's lilies, which are going to prove very, very useful later on. We're not going to worry about healing just yet. If you're concerned, please, by all means, do that. Oh, there is a golden skull. Heading up the waterway towards that cave, we do have some more land squirts. I will be taking them out again. I would like the chance of getting a golden rune level 3 if at all possible. Switching over for the critical damage. Okay, drop something. Probably just poison, but we'll take it. Okay, jumping R2s. Let's try a charge R2. There we go. Now, of course, when we're not attacking, his stance is actually recuperating, so it does make it a little bit more difficult. It makes it even more difficult when you miss like that. Okay, watch the grab. Alright, we'll just get the kill. That's fine. Grab some more. Grab eggs. And where did that land squirt die? Right here. Poison bloom. I figured as much, but worth trying out just in case. Yeah, see, I'm going to do significantly less damage because I forgot to actually two-hand there. Not a big deal. I'm trying to actually switch to two-hand. There we have it. Hey, strip of white flesh. Still not what I was after, but hopping on Torrent just for a moment. We're going to get kicked off as soon as we are inside, but that is A-okay. Welcome to the Limgrave tunnels. This is going to be the first of many mines that we get into. We've already pointed out, but the symbol on the map that looks like a cave, that indicates it's a mine, which means it's going to be chock full of upgrade materials, and the Limgrave tunnels, of course, is no exception. One thing to keep in mind with these mines is that anytime you see one of these elevators, there is an alternate way down, and sometimes that way down, in fact I would say often, there will be hidden loot. Over here, we have a very clear path down, and that's the way I want to take because there is a piece of loot. So what I'm going to do is I am going to send this down just using the button there. But then I'm going to head over here, hug the wall, drop down once, a little bit of a side cave with nothing in it, drop down yet again. This time, however, we actually get a golden rune level 4, which is really nice to get considering we definitely need to be leveling up pretty quickly as we get through these early areas, and that is worth 1200 runes. Now this next drop, you can sprint and land that. I find it a little bit easier and safer just to sprint and then jump. Land right here where the candle is. Sprint and jump yet again just to be safe. And one more walk and we are down where the elevator is, and we have a site of grace. This is where I am going to prepare a little bit for the upcoming caves. So what I'm going to do is I am going to change the Lord Swords from Determination to Gravitas, and I am actually going to put the magic damage on. Split damage is something that we can get into more detail later on, but it's not necessarily a good idea. With split damage, it does seem to increase your damage. You can see here that my 136 plus 26 physical damage is going into 98 plus 4 physical and 98 plus 8 physical, which is a pretty huge increase. The problem is it's now going through 2 different defenses, so if an enemy has relatively high or moderately high physical and magic damage negation, I'm actually going to be doing less damage than just doing pure physical because I'm only going through a single level of defense. There's a particular enemy though, towards the end of this area, that is relatively weak to magic, meaning that the magic damage is going to actually give me an increase. Then, the club, I'm actually going to switch over to Determination and leave that the standard affinity. Let's grab this summoning pool. And I'm going to switch over to the club, and now we need to have a conversation about hardness. Hardness is a hidden stat in Elden Ring. It's not the first time that From Software has ever used it, but it's very present and noticeable in Elden Ring. Hardness determines what attacks are going to recoil or actually bounce off of an enemy. This can interrupt your combos, and it actually temporarily stuns the player character, leaving you open for an attack. There are different tiers to the level of hardness that enemies have, and the miners here and the boss are considered to be tier 3. You need to actually, well, if you really want to, you can look at charts online that show you the different tiers of all the enemies and the weapons. But if you don't match or exceed the tier of the enemy, then your single-handed light attacks are going to bounce off. In order to not recoil or again bounce off the enemies, you need to use a weapon that matches or exceeds the tier, or you use two-handed running or jumping attacks. These attacks don't recoil, which is really useful. Now the hardness actually determines also what enemy attacks are going to recoil or bounce off of your shield. Small shields, there's no recoil. Medium shields, there's standard recoil. Great shields, maximum recoil. Now, as always, there's going to be exceptions, and blocking with a weapon does not grant you any hardness. Okay, only with shields. Now, all that being said, let me show you what I mean in practice. Here I have our very first miner. Pay attention to what they're actually mining because that is something that we can harvest. If I go up and I just do a single R1 attack, a light attack with a club, I bounce right off. Now I did decent damage, and I'll tell you why here in a moment, but I'm going to bounce off as long as I am just one-handing this weapon. But if I do a running attack, notice I didn't recoil. If I do a two-handed attack, I will also not recoil. The reason that enemy still took some decent damage, and I'll show you with the Lord Sworn's Greatsword here soon, is they are very weak to strike damage. Pay attention to the actual type of damage underneath the weapon type. So you can see here I have a club, it is a hammer type, it's dealing strike damage. Lord Sworn's Magic Greatsword, it's a greatsword and it's dealing standard or pierce damage depending on the actual attack. Despite having a higher attack power, I will do significantly less damage because of the enemy's weakness to strike. Over here we get a smithing stone level 1. We're going to be collecting several of these. Pay attention again to the walls. Now this enemy right here, he is not paying attention to us, but that one, as soon as we get close, is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually sprint at him and try and land with a jumping R2. There we have it. Another R2 to get that kill. Perfect. These enemies are very, very invested in their work. So provided we don't actually interrupt what he's doing, he should leave us alone. But let me use this enemy to show you a light attack from the Lord Thorn's Greatsword. Now, 65 damage, it's actually a poor showing because, well, frankly, number one, it didn't recoil because I'm two-hitting the weapon, but also the magic damage is actually going to go through very nicely. In fact, I didn't test this against the miners, I'll be honest. I tested against the boss. There's another smithing stone level 1, but apparently I don't really even need the club at this point. Well, let's just sneak up here. Brand new strategy, just using the Lord Thorn's Greatsword. Hey, we got the pickaxe. That's a really nice drop. I recommend farming for the pickaxe. It's not a terribly uncommon drop. The nice thing is it is a great hammer that deals pierce damage. There is a certain enemy, actually a boss we're going to be fighting soon, not today, but soon, that is very weak to pierce, and this is a great alternative to the other one that I was going to show off. Grab another smithing stone level 1. Gonna head back here. We have one enemy right here. Really hard to get a backstab on him. In fact, I've never been able to do it, but charging R2 makes really quick work of him. And we have a few rats back here. Ugh. Really hate the rats. Let's go ahead and show off the gravitas. So it deals a little bit of damage, not much, but you can see that stun is really useful, especially for bringing enemies and then using a weapon with a very large attack arc. Another smithing stone level 1. Making our way back here. All of the enemies are dead. All the loot has been collected, so we're going to head back to this tunnel. And this tunnel definitely holds a fairly big surprise, or at least the elevator does. And you can see it just by coming over here. Of course, we have that alternate way down, but if you kind of look right just below. So on this side right here, there's actually a hidden passageway. In fact, that's where the boss is. If you didn't find that, you may think that this mine doesn't have a boss. Well, all mines have a boss. So this one, you just need to look carefully for it. So just like the last time, I am going to send this one down. Then I'm going to take this side passage. If we wanted to, you could drop down right here into that secret passage. Otherwise, we're just going to slowly make our way down. We're going to jump to this smaller platform. Run across, run down. No loot in that secret section. That's okay. We're going to leave that one down. And now we have some enemies that once we have their attention, they're going to be charging at us. So I want to try and take some out if at all possible. So I'm first going to start by creating some firebone arrow fletched. Okay, I can make just one set, but that's 10, so that's fine. I'm also going to make some fire pots. Going to make sure I have those arrows equipped, and I'm going to switch out the rainbow stones for the fire pots. Now, it's a short bow, so the range is not great, but let's go ahead and get that in our hand, and I'm targeting this dog right here. You could go for a headshot, but I've done that and I've missed, and then you just have this enemy and a couple others that will follow suit. So instead, let's just knock one of our fire arrows. And then what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna use the barrage skill once he starts charging at me. So decent damage once he starts coming at me. There we go, perfect. And similarly with this dog. Perfect. There's the barrage skill, really useful. Switch back over to our Lord Thorn's Greatsword. Jump attack to stun. And the easy finish. Heading inside here, we do have this item up here. Let's go ahead and clear the surrounding area first. Just a nice charger attack to deal with him. He was mining a smithing stone level 1, and don't forget to head behind this shack and grab yet another smithing stone level 1. Lots of upgrade materials here, but inside here, we get a really useful magic item. I liken this to the scrolls you collect in Skyrim that allow you to use magic even if you're not a magic character, and it's the large glintstone scrap. We're going to find something similar here in just a moment. But this large glintstone scrap that I am going to get on my hotbar, I got the fire bombs just in case I needed to against the dogs. You break the gem and it uses some of your FP to cast magic bolts. The large glintstone scrap costs 10 FP and it fires several magic bolts, and these do scale with intelligence. You can see there's actually an A scaling in intelligence. Really, really useful, especially against the boss in this area. Let's head back to the elevator. And as we take this elevator up, you can actually see the opening right there. So just face this back wall. And then right here, just walk off very, very carefully. You have a Stake of America, so you know something's coming up. And we have some enemies here that look just like the sack-carrying enemies that we've already faced, but they're glowing. These enemies are mining explosive stones, and that's what they're carrying in their sack. What's really cool about those is that if you have any sort of fire, for example, a fire arrow, they will explode, potentially taking out other enemies in the area. Oh, not what I wanted. I'm trying to two-hand it. Let's go ahead and sneak to this enemy right here. Try and just get the backstab. There we have it. Nice, clean kill. Here we have glintstone scrap, so not the large, but just the regular glintstone scrap. This will fire a magic bolt, so instead of multiple, it's just a single one, but it only costs 4 FP. Grab this smithing stone. And you know what, just for fun, since I made them, let's go ahead and grab a fire pot. And let's take care of you. Didn't get his attention. I'm just gonna back up here. Okay. No real need. We can just go get him. He's probably gonna turn around. There we have it. This enemy is actually gonna try and light us on fire with his lantern. But what we can do is just charge at him. And then as soon as he hits us with the pickaxe, apparently, I was hoping he would actually use the lantern. But nevertheless, we'll just fish for that backstab. Heal up. Normally he'll lead with the lantern and you can just run around for the backstab anyway. And again, just for fun. No real need to do it. You can get explosive stones off of those enemies. Unfortunately, we were not so lucky. Once again, sending this elevator down. Hugging this left wall, drop down. Drop down yet again. Jump to this platform. This might seem insignificant, but we have a golden rune level 1, but down one more level, and we get a somber smithing stone level 1. And now, as you can see, we are at a rather large set of doors. It's not King Kong back there, although I wish. That is going to be a stone digger troll. Grab the last smithing stone level 1, and you can kind of see just by looking through there, we have this rather large and imposing troll with a very, very large club-like weapon. I'm going to tell you that it's extremely easy to take out this boss using only the items that we collected in this cave. What I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to use my flask of cerulean tears. I'm going to set up my hotbar in just such a way. And I'm going to rush in there, and I'm going to, as soon as I can target him, stop and use all of these large glintstone scraps. I got 5 of them. Then I'm going to use all of my 3 glintstone scraps. I think I actually only need 2. And the boss is dead. He hasn't been able to take a single swing at me, and he's going to be dead. But I know that not everyone is all about the easy boss kills or the cheese strategies, so I am going to then kill him using the weapons I have at my disposal, the club and the Lordsorn's greatsword. Okay, so I'm going to show you this boss kill twice. Let's go ahead with this first method. Get the large glintstone scraps ready. And as soon as the doors open, I am going to try and lock on. Oh, we can already lock on. And I'm just going to start using all these. And I'm just mashing them. Just keep going. We eventually hit his head. Make sure we switch over. He is down for the count. And there we have it. Stone Digger Troll is dead. Using nothing but the items that we got here in the Limgrave tunnels. We get the Roar Medallion, we get 1800 runes. The Rune Medallion, this is another talisman, Now, when you read the description, you may be a little bit misled. It doesn't work with incantations or any breath skills, despite what the description says, but other skills like Warcry and Barbaric Roar, which we have on our club, or at least we had on our club, and it does actually increase the damage or increases the buff that you'd normally get from those roars. It does stack with some other things like the passive skill we get from the Highland Axe, but we're not going to get that until sometime later in Stormvale Castle. Now that's the really easy way of taking care of that troll. Not saying the other way is all that difficult, but I do want to show off both methods. So now let's see the melee version. So the goal is I'm going to use the axe with determination to use charge R2 and jumping R2 attacks to take down the troll by focusing on his legs. Once he is down and there is a glowing spot on the head that is available for a critical, I'll switch over to the Lord Sword's Greatsword. If I have time, I'll actually hit him with a charged R2, and then I will actually get the critical. Typically, there's enough time to do both. Now, I don't really need these because I'm going to be focusing just on melee, but that is the plan. So let's get our club ready. I'm going to open it, use determination. Actually, I'm going to use determination right now because I'm going to open it, hopefully be able to sprint all the way up to him within the 10 seconds to get the charge R2, although now I'm realizing I'm cutting it very close. You could also use your spirit summons, not a terrible idea. He's gonna roar. Okay, there's a good hit. Watch the leg stomp if he's gonna do it. Let's use another determination. Okay, he's gonna do some big hits here. Charge R2. Watch those. There we go. Switch over to the Lord Swords. Charge R2. Good damage. And the critical, right the shiny part. Massive, massive damage. And from here, I can actually just watch it. He's going to do some big, big hits. And some of these attacks have really, really big AoEs. If that's going to happen, make sure that you're ready to get out of the way or actually jump over some of the shockwaves. Watch the stomps. I said watch the stomps, not get hit by the stomps. Definitely heal up. Okay, he's going to turn around, do a big, big hit. But we should be able to finish him off just like that. Once again, a little bit of strategy will go a long, long way. And of course, we're a medallion, 1800 runes, and that's the Stone Digger Troll, and that is Limgrave Tunnels. And because the boss is now dead, we can use this to return the entrance, but we can also warp out. You cannot warp out, though, if the boss is still alive. Heading to the Seaside Ruins because that's where we're going to pick it up next time, but I'm going to leave it apart there because next time we're going to be taking on the lake, and there's a lot to do in the lake and a certain little side area that we're going to be whisked away to. But that's going to do it for this episode of Everything Possible in Elden Ring. I hope you learned something. If you did, let me know down in the comments what you learned, and if I missed something or maybe you have a better strategy for the Stone Digger Troll, let me know that as well so we can all keep learning. And if you found this at all informative or entertaining, hit that like button, subscribe for more upcoming videos. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.